And welcome to the Friday the 13th PMI certification chat. It's terrific to have you here today. My name is Andrea Brockmeyer and I am the Director of Project Management at Watermark Learning, and I have been involved in PMI certifications of many flavors, many versions over many, many years. So I develop and teach certification courses for the PMP, the ACP, the PMI PBA, and have been involved in the development of the products we have in support of those certifications as well. So our next certification chat currently is scheduled for next month, August 3rd, and our upcoming courses, our PMI PBA course coming up is end of October. That'll be a virtual class online, and our next PMP certification class is September 10th, and that is live in person here in Minneapolis. So also we have Anytime Learning, meaning they are recordings of live online classes that you can purchase and take those courses or participate in those courses or look at the recordings at your convenience, anytime that works for you. So you'll be getting a copy of these slides and a link to the recording, which will be up on our website as well, following today's session. So also we've got some special offerings for folks who attend today, so we'll be looking for those in the follow-up email after our session today as well. So I've got a handful of things that I'm going to talk about today, but I do want to make this, answer any questions that you folks have. So if, as we're moving along here, if you've got questions, don't hesitate to send them in the chat box there, or not the chat box, the question box there, and I will answer them as they come up. My thinking was today, and it's kind of funny because in the last number of certification chats, actually the ones that we've been doing this year, have kind of been focused on the changes because there were so many certification changes from PMI here in the first half of 2018, and now those have all come and gone. So I'm kind of going back to nuts and bolts today. I'm going back to what are the things that are required to qualify for these exams, and some of those kinds of things, rather than focusing on the changes in the certifications or the standards or the PMBOK or anything like that. If you've got questions about those, I'm happy to answer them, but they seem kind of like old news at this point in my mind, but that may not be the case for you. So again, that's my thinking, kind of nuts and bolts, primarily focused on the PMI-ACP, the PMI PBA, and the PMP. But again, if you've got other questions, don't hesitate to shout them out. I know we have an hour scheduled here. It may or may not take an hour to get through everything. We can be done before that, for sure, or we can take that time if that works for you, whatever you want to do. So at any rate, here are some links that can be handy, just in the event that you want to, have those in the slides that you get. You can take a look at some of these. So we've got some things on our website in particular that can be helpful. So just information there for you. So a lot of times people are, thinking about, okay, I want to get certified, and where do I start? And I really recommend starting with a couple of basics, and these are sometimes things that people overlook. They kind of jump in right in, just sort of in the middle of the pool and start studying, which is a good thing, and you need to do that. But there are a couple of things that can be helpful and answer a lot of questions that people have before you get deep into your studies. So one is the certification handbook. And one of the things is PMI has a very robust certification program. And so they have a lot of great resources that not every organization has that can really help you. And one is a handbook that is specific to each certification. So if you go to the PMI website, pmi.org, and click on certification, you will then see all the certifications there, and you can click on the certification, and in the right margin, you'll find a couple of a couple of things. One is the handbook, which is a document that describes the qualifications, it describes the cost, it describes how to pay, it describes how the exams are scored, everything that you'd want to know about that particular exam. So that can be a really good resource. The other that is all too often overlooked is what's called the Examination Content Outline, or the ECO, the Exam Content Outline. Every PMI exam has an ECO, and what this is effectively, it's the blueprint for the exam. This is the document that they use, and when they're writing questions, all of the questions have to map back to this. So one of the challenges I find is that people think that, you know, the preparing for a PMI exam is all about memorizing a book. Well, with the exception of the CAPM, none of PMI's exams are book-based. They're all role-based, meaning that it's about how you do the things that a project manager or a business analyst or an agile practitioner does. How do they do those things? And those are things that map back to the ECO. So the exam content outline is, as I say, it's the blueprint for the exam. It shows you how the exam is organized, what percentage of questions come from each section, and the tasks that you need to be familiar with. So this is a really key resource that you want to use, and use it as a source, kind of a springboard for really all of your prep work. And then identify the relevant PMI standards. For example, if you're studying for the PMP, obviously, the PMBOK is going to be a key resource. And for each one of their exams, there are key standards that they have developed. And while the exam is not specifically going to be memorizing that, those are key resources that you do need to be familiar with. So which exam are you taking? Which resources do you need to get a hold of? And I'm going to talk about that today for each one of those 3 primary exams. And then the other thing you want to do is get started on that application. Now, you may have heard that PMI applications are really a lot of work. Certainly, they're not typically something that you can do in one sitting. You know, it's going to take you a number of hours, but don't let it be too intimidating. I've heard people say, well, you know, I'm so intimidated by the application process. PMI has come a long, long way over the many years that I've been doing this in making it very easy. The interfaces are easy. It's very intuitive. You know, it's a lot of autofill stuff and just drop down boxes. So it's pretty simple what they've done in terms of making it that application something that isn't too much work. I mean, it takes work, it takes time, but it's not a difficult thing. It just is a little putsy pulling all of your experience together. The other thing is that once you get started with your application online, you have to set up an account at PMI, and there's no cost for any of that, but you set up an account, you go ahead and start your application. You can save it and go back to it and save it and go back to it. And they'll save it for 90 days. If you don't touch it for 90 days, they'll deactivate it. But then if you decide on the, you know, 91st day, oh, I want to go back and continue working, you can resurrect anything that you've already started, and they'll, you know, they don't delete it, so you don't lose anything. I mean, it's pretty slick. So I have to say that it's pretty nice what they've done there. And the thing is, you want to get started on that app, because then you can see what information you're going to need, and, you know, start getting your information pulled together. And so one of the things that we have are application worksheets on our website. If you go to watermarklearning.com, there are application worksheets that can, let me see if I can pull one up here, just show you here things that you can do to start filling in your experience and seeing how your experience is going to need to be organized. And so, for example, for the PMP exam, you can use this, and this is pretty slick. You put the name of your project, whatever it is, and you'd put your date. Say you started in January of 2017 and it ended in March of 2018. So that's how it'll calculate the months. How much of your time did you spend on that project? And we recommend not going over 80 because the fact is nobody can spend 100% of their time on a project, right? There are things that, get in the way of that, whether it's, vacation or sick time or going down the hall or talking to your neighbor or whatever. So you put in whatever, say half of your time was spent working on that project, and it'll calculate the number of hours for you. And then what you're going to need to do, and this is again for the PMP, you're going to need to enter what percentage of your time on that project was spent in each of these domains or process groups. And so you can hover over here and you will see that there is a description here of what is initiating, what's involved in initiating, what are those things that would constitute initiating. This information here in this little note, that's straight from the ECO. That's from the exam content outline. So that's how you can know, okay, how much of my time was spent initiating? Probably not very much, right? So maybe 10%, maybe a ton of my time was spent planning. Half my time was spent planning. 20% of my time was spent executing. Another, where am I at? 70, 80. 10% on monitoring and controlling, 10% on closing, and it'll calculate, and then it'll run out the hours for you here, and this will become helpful then when you get to the exam or the PMI website. So again, it's pretty easy to fill out the PMI application, but just in the event that you want to, use something like this can be helpful too, to kind of gather your thoughts. And we have a worksheet for all three of those applications there. So those are just free download. You'll have to get a Watermark Learning account, but there's no fee for that. So I was going to talk next about each one of the exams, the ACP, the PBA, and the PMP. So I want to talk about just what's required, the minimum experience required. What are some of the qualifications to sit for the ACP? So for the ACP, you need 1,500 hours, 8 months of experience, totaling at least 1,500 hours of Agile project experience in any role. So you could have been a Scrum Master or a product owner or something like that, but you could have also been, maybe your organization is kind of doing a hybrid thing and you were a project manager and you were doing some iterative kinds of things. So it's not like it has to have been, we were doing 100% Agile and, boy, everybody was really just, out of the book. Scrum, for example. What role were you? And maybe you were a team member. So 1,500 hours or 8 months of experience doing that. That has to be within the last 3 years. In addition, then, you need 2,000 hours. You need 12 months of experience, totaling at least 2,000 hours of just general project experience, again, in any role within the last 5 years. So maybe you were, working on non-Agile projects for, as a team member within the last 5 years. You just need 12 months or 2,000 hours of that kind of experience. Now, if you already have a PMP, there's lots of benefits if you already have a PMP for some of this stuff. Those 2,000 project hours, you've already demonstrated that, what you had to do in order to earn your PMP. So you don't have to, all you'll need is the 8 months or 1,500 hours of Agile project experience. So those two categories need to be, the experience needs to be mutually exclusive. So you need the 1,500 plus the 2,000. So they can't be overlapping. That experience can't be overlapping. Okay. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? The one thing I really want to emphasize is that I think one of the things that intimidates people is this experience stuff. And, I earned my PMP many years ago, and I'm a very different project manager than I was at the time that I applied to sit for the PMP. Remember that it's true, you have to have experience as a certified practitioner of anything. But you're way better after you're certified than you are at the time that you certify, right? certification, the process of certification enhances your skills. So, you know, you're probably not doing any of these things as well as you'd like to be or as well as you think you should be. But don't let that deter you from, you know, pursuing certification, and take advantage of the process of certification to make yourself better. So in that, you know, that's certainly the case here with Agile too. Not, you know, not a lot of organizations or students come to me and say, boy, we're doing this Agile stuff spot on, 100%. We are just really, you know, most people are struggling in one way or another. So that's okay. All right, the other thing you have to have to apply or to qualify to sit for these exams is contact hours or education. What's called education, or what's called contact hours, but is essentially education. Now I'm just going to comment here, this is not to be confused with PDUs. PDUs are professional development units. You cannot earn a PDU until you are certified in something. In order to qualify for certification, the education hours are called contact hours. For the ACP, you need 21 contact hours. This can be training on Agile practices. This could have been a class you took. This could be something that your internal organization did. Could have been a CSM class. And we'll talk about the Bootcamp. The Watermark Learning ACP Prep Bootcamp counts for all 21. So there's no time limit on this. This could have been 10 years ago. For the ACP, it has to be completed before sitting for the exam. Okay, so what about resources? If I want to pursue the ACP, what resources do I need to think about? Well, here's the handbook. As I said, you know, that's online, it's free. Take a look at that. Here's the examination content outline, the ECO. Check it out. Use that. So those are our key resources. You know, there are a couple of you know, I always tell my students, when you're prepping for this stuff, you got to kind of swim in the PMI pool, right? You got to really embrace how they think about things, how they talk about things, the language that they use, their perspective. And a good way to really become familiar and comfortable with that is to read some of these smaller publications, like some of these Pulse of the Professions. Here's a couple that I think are good that speak kind of to some of the things that you want to be thinking about for the PMI-ACP. These are not required readings. These aren't referenced anywhere, but I think they're very helpful. And like I say, they're shorter reads, but they're very helpful in terms of getting your head in the place it needs to be for the exam. The most important resource for studying for the ACP is the Agile Practice Guide. This is one of my favorite PMI publications. It's a terrific source. Very easy to read. It's not terribly long. It's very consistent with the standard Agile stuff out there. Lots of nice diagrams. This is a great resource, whether you're studying for the ACP or not. But that's the one that you want to use. So that's the key source. Now, there's also the project management body of knowledge. I only mention that because if you really are completely unfamiliar with project management, you probably should take a look at this. Maybe just read the standard in the back. This thing is 700 and some pages long. They're thin pages. It's just, it's really a daunting read. You don't need to study it like you would for the PMP, but you should be familiar with how it's organized and what's in there. Remember the ACP, or so you're talking about Agile, you know, how are you delivering projects in an Agile way? So if you're really unfamiliar with project management, you should take a look at the PMBOK. Like I say, at least how it's organized, but you're not going to get PMBOK questions. They're going to be Agile questions. So definitely that Agile Practice Guide is your primary source. Plus, it's just a great looking book. Who doesn't like that cover? And then Watermark ACP resources are Bootcamp. So we've got a 3-day Bootcamp, and I'll tell you, we run that live from time to time, but we also have the ATL, the recording. So you purchase the recording and then you can watch it on your own. This is a little easier exam than, say, the PMP or the PBA. This works great as an ATL. This is a really great class to use that ATL and have that convenience. It provides all of the 21 contact hours. And we've also got our online study exam, which is really great. And so that's a really great package to, take advantage of this and pursue that ACP. I am a huge advocate of this certification. I think it's great. I think, I know there are other certifications out there. There's the CSM and the PSM, and there are probably some others. I think this is a really good one. It makes you, again, really refines your understanding of Agile. You really commune with that manifesto and what it means to be Agile and the benefits of that. And so I think this is just a really terrific certification. So I think it's good value for you, and it's value that you can take to your organization to be really solid in your understanding of Agile. And it's not specific to Scrum. So this is Agile in general, which I think is a benefit. So it's not specifically Scrum. All right, so that's the ACP. Now the PMI PBA, Professional and Business Analysis. This is the fastest growing certification that PMI has, and I am, no surprise, a huge advocate of this certification. I think this is a certification that PMPs should be running to. And this is all about business analysis being done in the context of projects and programs. So the qualifications for this are similar to the qualifications for the PMP. So this is a little more rigorous exam than the ACP. I'd say it's more rigorous than the ACP. It's not as difficult as the PMP, however. But you need, if you have a college degree, and we're talking here about bachelor's degrees, so you either have a bachelor's degree or you don't. They don't care about masters or PhDs or whatever. It's just either you have a bachelor's degree or you don't. If you do have a bachelor's degree, to qualify to sit for this exam, you need 36 months, 3 years of experience, totaling at least 4,500 hours of business analysis work. If you do not have a degree, you need at least 60 months, totaling at least 7,500 hours of business analysis work. Now, I know this seems pretty substantial, and it is, but you'd be surprised, and again, we've got a worksheet for this. You start thinking about, okay, what is the BA work that I've been doing? Take a look. This is a really important one for taking a look at that exam content outline. I think particularly for people that come from a project management background, they're like, I don't know what business analysis I've been doing. I can tell you you've been doing business analysis. Unless you have 100% of your project experience is included working with a BA, and you've had very strict demarcation between what the BA is doing and what the PM is doing, most PMs are doing business analysis as part of their project work. So take a look at that ACO and see what's involved in some of those tasks, those business analysis tasks, and I think you will be surprised at how much BA work you've done. So in addition to that, then you also need 2,000 hours of experience working on projects. So now you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, 9,500 hours if I don't have a degree. Well, the thing is that those 2,000 hours of experience working on projects can be part of the numbers above. So let's say, for example, I don't have a degree and I've got 7,500 hours of experience documented, and it was all done on projects. It was all BA work done on projects. Then I'm good. What they're saying is that you need to have some project experience. You need to understand what a project is, how it works, what are some of the project management concerns, because again, the PBA is all about business analysis being done in the context of projects, programs, and portfolios. So they want you to have some of that project exposure. That's what they're saying there. So I think there aren't too many people who do VA work outside of the only outside of the context of project. I suppose it's possible, but that's probably not likely the case. All of those hours, then, those project hours, need to be within the last 8 years. And overall, your experience has to cover all of the domains. And again, I'm going to refer you back to the ECO in terms of what are the domains. Needs assessment, planning, analysis, traceability and monitoring, and evaluation. Again, if you are already a PMP, you don't have to worry about those 2,000 project hours. You've already documented that. Okay. The other thing is then the contact hours for this certification. You need 35 contact hours for this. So, and that can be training on business analysis practices, any kind of training. There's no time limit, and that has to be completed before you can actually submit your application. Okay, so resources for the PBA. The handbook, of course, and the exam content outline. And then the key source is going to be the PMI Guide to Business Analysis. So this just came out in November of 2017. And so the Guide to Business Analysis is to business analysis what the PMBOK is to project management. It reads, if you're familiar with the PMBOK, this will be a very familiar document to you. It's got processes, it's got process groups and knowledge areas, inputs, tools, and outputs. You do not need to memorize inputs, tools, and outputs. It's not that, you don't use this resource like you might the PMBOK for the PMP. But it's a good document. It's on very readable pages, and it's not as lengthy as the PMBOK. Still pretty long, but it's a good resource. And then another very key resource is the Business Analysis for Practitioners, the Practice Guide. This is one of my other favorite PMI publications. It's very practical. Actually tells you how to use tools and techniques. So this is a really great resource. So those are going to be the two key resources for this exam. And then there is also, I always like to mention, the Requirements Management Practice Guide. This is a much shorter document. The one thing I like about it in particular is it includes an illustration of how the project management processes and business analysis processes interact. And so that can be a really great source or a great visual for kind of seeing how it all works together. But I think, again, it's just a good thing. Take a read. You know, you don't need to memorize it or anything, but I think it's a good source to take a look at. But you want to focus primarily on these two down here at the bottom. All right, and then PMI or Watermark's PMI PBA Resources. Again, we have a boot camp that's coming up in October, and that provides all 35 of those contact hours, so don't worry about that. Our very popular study guide, and that is coming out soon. We're currently updating that to be consistent with the exam changes that went into effect the 25th of June, and to incorporate the Guide to Business Analysis, the new resource that we just talked about. So that'll be coming out later this summer. And then our online study exam is a great resource, and that was updated and went live with the exam change on June 25th, so you can start using that now. And this is a really great resource. We've got over 800 questions, PBA questions. This was developed with input from some really experienced, great resources who have worked with PMI and IIBA and very savvy about business analysis. So that's a great resource that you can take advantage of now. So that's the PBA. All right, and then the PMP. So kind of similar to what you saw with the PBA. If you have a college degree, 3 years of experience totaling at least 4,500 hours. If no degree, 5 years of experience totaling at least 7,500 hours. That has to be within the last 8 years. That has to be time that you've spent leading and directing projects. Now, as with all of these, actually, your title doesn't matter. So, you may have been leading and directing projects and been called something else. That's fine. This is not a title thing. It's about the work you did. You can include experience that maybe was, say, for a nonprofit or something like that, but you cannot include experience like planning your wedding or something like that. It has to be professional experience. And your experience has to cover all of the process groups. So again, that's what we looked at when we looked at that spreadsheet: initiating, planning, executing, monitoring, controlling, and closing. Your experience cumulatively has to cover all of those. It isn't that you have to have so much in each one, but you have to have some in all of them. And a single project maybe you only did planning on one project. That's fine. That's fine. And then contact hours, like the PBA, 35 contact hours. That's training on project management practices, no time limit, and that has to be completed before submitting the application. So the key resources for the PMP includes the handbook and the examination content outline, and of course the 6th edition of the PMBOK. This is beastly. It's 739 pages. The pages are gray. They're icky gray pages. They're hard to read, and the reason they're gray is because that's how they're protecting their IP. If you make a copy of those pages, it shows that it's a copy, and so they're trying to protect their IP. Unfortunately, it makes it difficult some people anyway find it difficult to read for any extended period of time. I'm not too keen on it myself. Of course, you can get soft copies of these. When you're a member, you get soft copies, e-copies online that you can download. And maybe that works for you. I tend to work better from hard copy. So the PMBOK is, it's very long. I will say that there's a lot of, it's organized well, it's organized pretty consistently, and there are lots of things in the back and the appendices that make it very easy to digest. So if this is a path you're moving down and you pick up this PMBOK and you think, oh my goodness, I'm going to need a wheelbarrow to cart this thing around, don't despair. And I would check out those appendices in the back that have things organized in a little more digestible way before taking on that whole first part. All right, and this one's got processes, inputs, tools, outputs. You need to spend some time with this. And this is one where, a boot camp gives you an opportunity to work with some of that. So the Watermark PMP resources includes our boot camp, which is coming up in September. And again, that'll include all 35 contact hours. And yeah, so that's that. All right, so some things to think about just in general as it relates to PMI certification. When you submit your application, that experience, you need to identify somebody who can verify that you actually did that stuff, somebody who can say, yes, they really did do that work. So think about who those contacts may be. One of the challenges, and again, this is something that I think people get sometimes a little bit stuck on, well, that company doesn't exist anymore, or I don't know how to get a hold of that person. Well, you want to give that some thought. Find somebody that you can get a hold of if you have to in the event that you get audited. And so it doesn't matter, it does not have to have been the sponsor of your project. It doesn't have to have been your supervisor, it could be any role. So it's just somebody in the organization who can say, yes, you did this. So give that some thought. Make sure it's somebody you can get in touch with if you need to. Don't worry about title. I think I mentioned that. To submit your experience for the PMP, I didn't have the title project manager. That's okay. Or for the PBA, I wasn't a BA. That's fine. That's fine. Don't worry about that. And then be prepared to be audited. So there's random audits that they do on the applications that they receive. So I don't know what the algorithm is. If it's maybe it's some percentage or something. I'm not sure what they do, and of course they won't tell us, but there are a lot of, applications that get randomly audited, and that's overall a good thing. They're just making sure that people are, being honest about what they're submitting, and it helps maintain the integrity of PMI certifications. And so that's good for anybody who's certified to know that there's some process in place for that. They turn those audits around pretty quickly, and they make it pretty easy. So it sounds awful. Most people have said it wasn't that big of a deal. So you have to submit, you'll have to get in touch with people that you identified as your contacts, for example, or get transcripts from any education contact hours you submitted. So like with Watermark Learning, we provide, that information all the time to folks that get audited. It's very easy to do. At least when you take a class from us, we can turn that around very quickly for you. And then again, use that exam content outline when you're describing your experience. Look at that, how they describe the tasks, and tailor your description using some of that language, because that's what they're, that's what they're looking for. And I'm not suggesting you make up experience. You need to be honest about your experience. But the thing is, most of us don't think about the work that we did 3 years ago using PMI's language. We weren't using the language then. We maybe don't use the language now. And the language is a big part of this. Part of the certification journey is really understanding what are the terms and the language that we use around these things. That's one of the things that makes us better practitioners too, because then we understand industry standard terms. It facilitates communication with other professionals. It makes it easier to move from project to project when we're using industry standard language. So that ECO is a great resource for that. All right, so I like to track certification numbers. And so I just pulled these today. These are the numbers as of June 1st. And so I just like to look at the growth. The PMP it's usually around 4 to 5%. That's pretty steady growth month in, month out. We get these numbers monthly. So no big surprise there. Kind of the same with the CAPM. There's a good number of those folks. And that CAPM is Certified Associate in Project Management. It's an entry-level PM certification that people use as a springboard for. They get that, and then they take the time, take a number of years to get the experience they need to sit for the PMP. PGMP, SP, the pretty small numbers there. The Risk Management Professional, and by the way, PGMP is Program Management Professional, SP is Scheduling Professional, RMP is Risk Management Professional. PFMP is Portfolio Management Professional, just a very elite group of those folks. But the two that I'm really interested in there are the ACP and the PBA. And as you can see, these are the ones that really are out front in terms of growth, particularly that PBA. And that has been consistent. That was consistent with last year. In fact, last year's numbers, if you look year over year from 2017 to 2018, 80%. Now, of course, the numbers are relatively small, but even this year, I mean, we started out at about 2,000. Now we're at 2,500. So I think that's going to continue to grow. And like I say, in my mind, any PMP should be looking at the PBA. It's just, it's going to make you better as a project manager. It's going to make you more effective in your organization. As you move down the path towards Agile, those BA skills are really transferable into an Agile environment. There's just all sorts of reasons why that's a good move for project managers, whether you're certified or not. And then that ACP, really solid growth there. And you look at, we've already got 21,000 ACPs. We're starting to get up there close to the CAPM. So I just think those are interesting numbers to, keep tabs on. So, all right, pop quiz here for you. What is more fun than studying for a PMI exam? Anybody? 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 Everything! Everything is more fun than studying for a PMI exam, in my experience. Laundry is more fun than studying for a PMI exam. So my number one piece of advice is when you decide to do this, make the commitment to doing something every day. Wait to start until you can commit a little bit of time every day, even if it's just 5 minutes to look at flashcards. because you have to keep it on your brain. You just have to swim in the language and swim in the thinking and just keep it foremost in mind until you get it done. So a little something every day, 7 days a week, every 24-hour period, one thing for each little box on the calendar, every single day. That's really how I have found that I get through this, because otherwise if you let 1 day pass and then 2 days pass and then it gets away from you, and it's so hard to sustain that commitment. So really just make it a point to do it. And it doesn't have to be hours, like I say, just even a little something just to keep it fresh on your brain. So here are my top 10 PMI certification prep tips. And I update these from time to time. I just updated these here today. So number 1 is, in case you didn't catch it just a minute ago, do some kind of prep every day. Secondly is plan to commit at least 40 hours. And I'd say that's probably the low end, but, and that's in addition to a boot camp. So the idea here being that it's a substantial commitment. This is not something that's going to happen just because you want it to. It really does take some time. At the same time, people will say, 100 hours or 150 hours. There's a point of diminishing return here. These are pass-fail exams. You're not looking to get an A. So you need to study as much as you need to study, but not more. That's kind of the goal. So, but it's a substantial commitment. Read the PMBOK or the practice guide or whatever key resources PMI I've identified for you. My recommendation is to read those at least once. Now, some people say, do I really have to do that? Or they'll say, I took the test and I didn't pass, and do I really have to read that? I say you really have to read it. Yeah. It's not necessarily all at once, not all at once, but you need to get through it once. Use the Watermark resources from class and or self-study. So if you're going to do, say, for example, the ACP Anytime Learning, use those resources together with the Watermark or the PMI resources, right? It's not an either or, it's a both and. So you can study everything kind of horizontally, all of the material, but a really good approach too is to take one knowledge area or one domain or one chapter at a time and kind of take a vertical approach. So I'm going to just focus right now on planning. So read everything about planning. Read the planning stuff from the Guide to Business Analysis. Read the planning stuff from the BA Practice Guide. Read the planning stuff from the Watermark course material. And focus on that, and then take drills, do practice tests in that area. So kind of do a horizontal, but also don't forget about the vertical study. Use flashcards or create your own flashcards. So we've got some flashcards in our materials that you can use. Also, though, a really good technique for prepping is to go buy some inexpensive note cards, like recipe cards at a drugstore, and just make your own flashcards as you're studying. And then you can take those with you, and it's something physical for you to look at. That helps your brain. And just as creating them is one exercise, and then utilizing them is another. So that's a really great approach. I found that to be enormously helpful. After reading all the resources, then start doing simulations or doing questions that cover all of the areas. Now, regarding simulations, our online study exams include simulations, which is like a 4-hour, 200-question test. That's a lot of time. I will tell you that I think that's a great resource, and I've had many people say, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I did that, because it's been a long time since I sat for a test for 4 hours. But, I have a hard time finding 4 hours to do much of anything. And so, if you don't have an opportunity to do that, that's okay. Take lots of smaller tests. That's okay. That has worked for me. So I just want to throw that out there. But at least do mixes of questions, right? Get, a test that includes questions from all the different areas. We recommend studying until you're getting well into the 80% on practice tests. So that'll kind of give you an edge because the real questions are going to be different. They're going to be harder. And well, I shouldn't say harder. They're just going to be different, obviously, because we don't know what the real questions are. But, you know, and there's test anxiety and all that kind of stuff. So you want to really be doing well, very solidly well on your practice test before you go into the real test. And then do your brain dump. So people usually do, it's pretty common that people will do what's called a brain dump, where you're going to jot down all the things that you've memorized before going into the test. And once the exam starts, you get scratch paper or a whiteboard, depending on the type of test or depending on the resources at the test center. And you can jot down equations, for example, or maybe some acronyms that you want to remember. So think about, what am I going to include in my brain dump, and practice that so that you can do it very quickly, because it's going to eat up exam time. You want to make sure you can be efficient about that. So, and we talk more about that in our boot camps. And then know thyself. And by that I mean, if you are a cautious test taker, you know, you're going to probably take, if you get 4 hours, you're probably going to take close to 4 hours. That's okay. Don't let people tell you that, you know, you should be out of there 90 minutes if you know it all. And I had people tell me stuff like that. I'm a cautious, methodical test taker. I take a lot of time. That's okay. If test anxiety is something you struggle with, be aware that you can do a test drive or do a dry run at the Prometric testing centers for $30. Maybe that's something you need to take a look at. You know, what study techniques are going to work for you. Do anything you got to do to mitigate the stress and really, you know, be your best self when you're preparing for these things. So that's what I've got. So I hope that was helpful. Any questions? Got a couple minutes left here. Anybody have any questions at all, or anything that I can help you with that I didn't cover? Just out of curiosity, how many are interested in the are here to get in? We're here to get information about the ACP. Anybody? Hands? How about the PBA? PMP? Okay, mostly PMP. Okay. All right. Good. Well, if that's it, I will call it good. Oh, a question about how do you earn PDUs? Okay, sure. Yeah, so great question. So after you're certified from PMI, you have to earn what are called PDUs, or professional development units, unless you have a CAPM. And the only way to keep your CAPM is to take that exam over. So that one's a little bit different. But you can earn PDUs in a whole bunch of ways. You can earn PDUs by taking a class. You can earn PDUs by writing articles. We love to have guest, you know, bloggers and people write articles. If something gets published on our website, you get PDUs for all the time you spend writing an article. That can be a lot of PDUs, up to a certain number. But you can get PDUs from watching webinars. You can get PDUs from practicing, doing project management or doing business analysis. Any kind of, the one category that's unlimited is the learning. So any kind of class or webinars or online sessions that you participate in are all eligible for PDUs. So that's how a lot of people earn them. But there's quite a number of ways. And you can go on the PMI website once you have an account and look at what's called the continuing certification, CCR, continuing certification, oops, and I'm gonna draw a blank on the R, requirements process. So and I am, okay, and somebody's asking a question about You are enrolled in a PM class in IT and master's, and you took a few classes for Agile. Does that count as a PDU? Yes, and again, a PDU once you're certified. So yes, absolutely, that would count. You bet. Now, if you're talking about contact hours in order to get certified, that would count for that as well. If it's a class where you had an instructor there, yeah. You're as a PMP. Oh, ACP. Okay, yeah. Yep, then your contact hours. So somebody certified as a contact hour, wondering if a class that they took in Agile as part of a IT master's program perhaps or something would count. Absolutely, yeah. You bet. Anything else? All right, well, I hope this has been helpful, folks. I'm going to stop the recording now, and good luck to all of you. Don't hesitate to reach out to me or to the info box at watermarklearning.com, and just info@watermarklearning.com, or you can reach out to me directly, and I would love to help you out, and I think you will find that time you spend getting certified is time well spent. So good luck and have a great weekend, everybody. I'm going to stay online here until everybody's left in case there are any extra questions. Thank you much.